Hi everybody, my name is K.L. Kettle. Welcome to this week's The Book Chain Project. Today, Natascha Biebow is interviewing Chrissie Sains, author of Alien in the Jam Factory, a great debut chapter book that's come out this year. And I will see you on the other side. Have fun, bye.
1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the episode of The Book Chain this week. My name is Natascha Biebow. I'm really excited to be back on The Book Chain this evening. I'll be interviewing Chrissie Sains, who is the author of this wonderful book, An Alien in the Jam Factory. So while we wait for Chrissie, I just wanted to say welcome to The Book Chain. We're a series of interviews, one author interviewing the other. We have a lot of fun talking about craft and things like that. And so I've just got to figure out how to let Chrissie working. The tech is always the fun part. So Chrissie, are you here? Yes, we have Chrissie. Welcome. Good evening.
Hello.
So I didn't introduce myself. My name's Natascha Biebow, and I'm the author of this book, The Crayon Man. And last week I was chatting with Nadine Kadan, who's the author of Tomorrow, about our books. And tonight I'm really excited. Chrissie and I are going to talk a lot about jam and inventions and exciting adventures. So welcome, Chrissie.
Hello.
So let's start. You tell us a little bit about yourself and how you just so people will get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, well, hi everyone, and thank you for having me to the Book Chain Project. Thank you. It's such a great thing to be able to do this and watch these every week, so it's great. But yeah, I'm Chrissie, and this is my book, An Alien in the Jam Factory, and it's about the world's most inventive jam factory, and it's about a young boy called Scooter Maclay. He's the chief inventor of Maclay's Jam Factory. But because he lives in a top secret jam factory, he doesn't have an awful lot of friends, and he's a bit lonely, and he'd really, really like a pet. But instead of a pet, an alien arrives, and he thinks that perhaps all his dreams have come true. But and this might be the friend he wants, but she creates a little bit of havoc and kind of gives an opportunity to their villainous neighbor next door, Daffy Dodgy. She has an opportunity, gives her an opportunity to break in. So that's kind of the start of the story. I won't say any more because spoilers.
Yes, spoiler alert.
Yeah,
we don't want to know the ending because we want everyone to go off and read your fantastic story.
Can I just say, I'm so sorry. I must say it's illustrated by the amazing Jenny Taylor, who is such an amazing talent, and she illustrates every single page in the book, and she's so clever. There's a guinea pig in the book who's quite grumpy, and at one point the big guinea pig wears a balaclava, and Jenny is so clever that even when he's wearing a balaclava, she can still manage to make him look really grumpy. So she's so
awesome.
Yeah. So I just have to give a shout out to Jenny because she's so brilliant.
Yes, definitely. We would definitely have to give a shout out to our illustrators, who are a really important part of making the book accessible to young readers, aren't they? Did you bring any jam, Chrissie? Did you bring your favorite jam?
I did. I
brought my favorite jam. Can I show you my favorite jam?
Yeah.
My favorite jam is this one. It's blackcurrant conserve. I like it because it's kind of sweet, but a little bit tart and sour. I like that it's not too sweet. So that's what I like to have on my toast in the morning. How about you?
Yeah, I love blackcurrant jam. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. My dad makes a really nice blackcurrant jam, but I like
homemade jam.
Yeah, I know. But I like it in custard. That's where I like blackcurrant jam. But my favorite jam is it's strawberry. Typical, but this one, which it's an empty jar now because I've eaten it all.
You've eaten it all just while she was waiting for the Insta Live.
Yeah. I'll just show you an empty jar of jam. But it's called, can you see it? It's called Published Author Jam.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's special.
Yeah. So my husband had this made for me on my book today. So I've got Published Author Jam, and it had champagne in it. Yeah. So,
I'm gonna demand jam when I'm got my next book out. Sounds really fun. So tell us a bit about what inspired this book. When we chatted, you talked to me about how you had this picture of a flying alien in a jam tart, and there's a picture of it in the book, isn't there?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it. We should show everybody.
Yeah, hold on.
Let's see if we can find a picture of the flying alien. She comes in quite soon after.
This is where she first meets Scooter.
Ah, there she is. She's the flying alien in a jam tart. Here's a slightly bigger picture of her.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Such lovely character. So tell us, how'd you get this idea?
Yeah, well, actually, it was with my children. So I spend a lot of time brainstorming with my children, and we play this game called the What If game, and we have to find something that's kind of interesting, and then do a what if about that object, and come up with a story idea. And we were eating jam tarts, and we were having a cup of tea, and because my kids, they like tea. I know it's strange, and they love coffee as a coffee in the morning, but which I probably shouldn't let them have. But anyway,
we won't tell.
No, yeah, nobody heard. So we were having a jam tart and a cup of tea, and yeah, but jam tarts come in this case. And my daughter took it out, and she went, oh, "What if this was actually a flying saucer and a tiny alien arrived on Earth?" And she was like flying it around.
I can see it, yeah.
And then we made clay models of an alien, and this was the clay model.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we flew it around, and yeah, we were like, as soon as she said it, I went, oh, that's an amazing story idea. I have to write that story. So yeah, so that was how we came up with it. But yeah, we've come up with a lot of story ideas playing the What If game. So yeah,
so that's good. You have a whole store of things you can come back to and create new books.
I have a whole treasure chest. Do you want to see my treasure chest?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Yeah, okay. I won't play the What If game.
She brought a show and tell. We like show and tell.
Okay, so
wow, it's a proper chest. Look at that.
Treasure chest, and inside are all the story idea things. So yeah.
Wow. That's a cool thing to have. Definitely, every author should have a treasure chest full of their ideas. So you said you were inspired as a child. You read some stories that maybe fed into this one, and one of them was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Because there's a factory in the book, isn't there? Because he lives in a factory. But this is a very cool factory. It's got lots of inventions. You want to tell us about some of the inventions? Because they're actually really fun.
What about some of the inventions in McClay's Jam
Factory? In the Jam Factory.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it was inspired, partly inspired by Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, because when I was at school, I wasn't much of a reader, and actually the first book that really got me reading was when I was kind of 9 or 10. I wasn't really much of a reader until then, and that was the first book that really got me reading and really opened up my imagination. So I have always had a bit of a thing about coming up with cool, different, unusual inventions and ideas. And so yeah, so when I started first brainstorming, thinking about an alien in the jam factory, I spent a bit of time with my children again, coming up with ideas for inventions. And
they're going to start charging you.
They're going to have to. They're going to. Actually, all the time when I'm writing, I ask them for help with ideas, and we're always brainstorming. But anyway, yeah. So we started thinking about how we could make jam more popular, because Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you think, well, everyone already loves chocolate. Who doesn't love chocolate? But not everyone loves jam. So we were a bit like, what could you do to make jam really tasty? Or I mean, we already think it's tasty, but for everyone to really like jam. So anyway, we came up with a few things, which was wasp repelling jam, because I don't know about you, but having a jam sandwich in the garden in the summer and you get chased by wasps, it can get annoying. So we had wasp repelling jam, and we had blueberry burst jam, which was when you eat it, it's like having a blueberry grenade thrown in your mouth and detonated.
Wow, that sounds
candy
good.
floss jams, all sorts of different jams to try and infuse people. And then we kind of moved on to new inventions then, after we'd come up with different flavors. We started thinking about what else you could do with jam, and we came up with all sorts of things like jam bubbles. You could blow bubbles of jam bubble bath, jam toothpaste, just
Wow.
anything you could do with jam. And we had a whole book of ideas. We wrote them all down.
Yeah.
And we drew them all and tried making a few. That went.
And there's a roller coaster, isn't there, in the factory?
Well,
all those fun things that children love.
well, the roller coaster was for a reason, because Scooter, the main character of An Alien in the Jam Factory, has cerebral palsy, and he can walk, but he can't walk long distances. And obviously, it's a huge jam factory, so we wanted to give him a really fun way to get around, and I thought a roller coaster would be a nice way to get around. Yeah. Well, everyone loves a roller coaster, don't they?
And he's got some bots, hasn't he, that help him out a bit?
Yeah. He's got the hand bots, so they come down from the ceiling, and because again, with his cerebral palsy, sometimes his hands can be a little bit stiff, so the hand bots can help him picking things up and writing, and sort of with his dexterity, they can help with that. And but that was quite a nice one to develop, again, because I really had to just watch a lot of Wallace and Gromit. I love the inventions.
Great films.
Yeah, I love the inventions in Wallace and Gromit, and I love what Aardman do. So we watched loads of Wallace and Gromit and Aardman animation films, and got all the ideas from there. But yeah, because they're just so imaginative, aren't they?
Yeah. And I love that you can take such an ordinary object. I mean, that's what inspired me when I wrote the Crayon Man, this ordinary object, the crayon, and then thinking, behind why was it invented and how was it invented. And, you started with jam, so I feel like we have maybe that in common a little bit.
Yeah.
But so tell us a bit about the main character you mentioned has cerebral palsy. What inspired you to include a character? And you already talked about the alien, so did you have a personal connection with this character, or tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, well, so my goddaughter has cerebral palsy, and I mean, obviously I've known my goddaughter since the day she was born, and she's incredible. She's determined. She's really funny. She's really, really smart. And I really wanted to put those characteristics. I wanted to highlight that about her, and also say, and she's got cerebral palsy. But I didn't want cerebral palsy to be the central focus of the book, because it's not the central focus of my goddaughter's life. I mean, it's a big part of her life, but she's all those other things as well. And so I think I wanted to create a book that reflected that. So she's been a huge inspiration. In fact, to be honest, she has been such a big help, because all the way through writing it, I would text her and her mum and say, "Oh, does this work? How can we do this? And how would that work?" And she was taking videos of herself and taking photos of herself doing things to help me describe them. So she's been really heavily involved in the book.
And what was her reaction when she saw the book? And was she happy and excited?
Yeah, do you know, it was so lovely, because she didn't. The book was dedicated to her, and she didn't know that until she received a copy. So it was really, she was really speechless, and she didn't really know what to say. And I'd written a bit about her in the back, and it was really special. But the funny thing is, I wrote it, and she was helping me write it, but she didn't want to read it until it was a proper book. So the whole way through, she was helping me, but she hadn't actually read it.
That's great. So she had the actual physical book, and then she could read it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So what's been the reaction from, like, when you've been out to schools, or for parents or people in your audience you've connected with, maybe librarians or booksellers, other parents?
Yeah, it seems to be going quite nicely at the moment. So got quite a few schools. They love doing invention, because I think because of the inventions, and of course it's a very inclusive book, and I think that schools in particular have really enjoyed like doing inventions and using it to do creative work with the kids. I had one school contact me. They were going to a jam factory for their school trip.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's a great tie-in, isn't it? That's only all schools do that.
I know. I was a bit like, can I come?
Yeah.
I had
Have you been inside a jam factory?
Yeah, well, I used to live near the Tiptree Jam Factory.
Oh, okay. So
but you're not allowed inside.
I know, it was really difficult for me to get in the Crayola factory, I have to say. Not many people are allowed in it.
You wouldn't have known that looking at your book. I was sure you'd been like living in there.
No, I did go. I was allowed to go visit, but only once, and I had to wear lots of protective stuff. You know, their health and safety is strict. So
of course. Yeah. So
the invention challenges are fun activity to do with children. It's a springboard from your book. And so have you managed to do some author visits, or has it all been challenging because of COVID?
Well, it has been a bit challenging. I have managed to do some local visits in person, and I must be honest, I prefer local visits, not local, I mean in-person visits, because I really enjoy engaging with the children, and it's really nice when you can ask questions and get answers, and you don't get quite the same interaction on Zoom, but I've done probably a lot more Zoom visits than I've had in-person visits, and that's been really nice as well. I mean, I often get my treasure chest out, and we spend about some Zoom visits have meant to be half an hour, and they've gone on to being about an hour and a half because we've spent an extra hour brainstorming story ideas from my treasure chest.
I bet the teachers loved it. So tell us, apart from the wonderful school visit, what's it like being a working author? When we chatted, you said it's the least money you've earned since you were working in a ski resort. And when you worked in a ski resort, it was a lot of fun. You got to ski all day. So how does that compare to being an actual professional working author?
I mean, it's different. It's really different, because I think before you get published, you have an idea of what it is, and it's not exactly what you think it's going to be. I mean, there's a lot more pressure, and I think that I used to I would sit and enjoy reading and writing, and I would take my time, and I would never think too carefully about deadlines or making sure it had to be right, because I could just go back and spend my time doing it again. But I think once I'm in it now, I find there's a lot more in terms of deadline. I put myself under a lot more pressure to get it right, and that's, I think, in terms that side of things, it's more difficult, and I have to manage my mental health quite carefully there. As in terms of self-promotion as well, sort of getting on social media, and that's another thing I have to be quite careful to look after myself about, because it's easy to look at what other people are doing and to compare yourself unfavorably, and actually I don't think that's really a very helpful thing to be doing. So I tend to keep myself to an hour a day on social media. I don't give myself any more time, so I get on there at 2 and I'm on there till 3, and that's it. I don't look other than that, because otherwise it can become a bit obsessive.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but when I post something, I find myself checking as if who's liked it and what's happened.
Who's looked at it.
Yeah.
But that means you have actual time to work on your other creative endeavors, and you have a more structured day.
I have to be more structured. So, I've started meditating. I meditate for 10 minutes every morning, which really helps me, actually.
Cool.
Keeps my mind a bit clear. So I just have to look after eating well. It's really strange, but I said to my husband the other day, I have to really eat well when I'm writing, because if I'm eating loads of rubbish, I get a bit fuzzy headed. So
yeah,
and I can't drink.
So having that balance is quite important, isn't it? And what would you say you've learned since you've been an author in terms of the actual craft bits? Because when we talked, you said, you already mentioned the process of how it's changed when you've been a writer, that you have a lot more deadlines, more structure. But did you do some courses? Did you have a support network? Some things that maybe helped you figure some things out that have helped you when you've got to write your next book for a deadline and think about future projects?
Yeah, definitely. So I did do a course before I got published with the Golden Egg Academy, and that really changed things for me. So before I did that course, I'd actually already written 4 other books, and
Wow.
I'd tried to get all of them published, and I'd approached agents with all of them, and I'd had about 60 rejections in total. I'd had a lot, and I was really feeling like I didn't know what I was doing wrong, and I didn't know where to go with it. So I joined the Golden Egg Academy, and within a year I had an agent, and they I think what they taught me was the structure and the roadmap really for writing, and yeah, it really helped me. I went from just being a bit of a pantster where I just wrote willy-nilly,
whatever.
yeah, to having a real plan, and
Yeah.
that really turned things around for me. But whilst I was on the Golden Egg Academy, the course, I met an amazing group of other writers, and actually I think that's probably almost one of the best things that came out of the course was that community. And I've still got this amazing group of friends now, and we still WhatsApp, you know, at least a few times a week. I think they're all meeting next week actually, but it's when I'm doing an interview next week with Melissa Welliver, so I can't join them. But yeah, we still all meet up, and we still read each other's work even now. So I think it's so important to have that community, because whether you've got supportive friends or supportive family, I don't know if anyone other than other writers really understand how that feels, to be that frustration when you're trying to write and it's not coming and you're not getting it. But I think other writers really do understand. So yeah, so I've got a great group.
That's good. It's good to hear that you have this support network where you can get ideas and feedback, and sometimes you're too close to your work and you need someone else to read it objectively.
Yeah.
And just like how we met through the book chain, that's something that came out of the SCBWI, which was an author publicity marketing program that's run in January, usually called the boot camp. So it's kind of circuitous, but really nice to have the network of other people who enjoy the same thing that we do, which is writing wonderful books for children. So that's cool that you have that. And so I think what we should do is, we're coming up to the half hour, is talk about what's next for you, what you're inspired. You mentioned your treasure chest, but you know, some experiences and things you're inspired by. What can you reveal what your next projects are going to be, or are they top secret?
I can. Do you know, I can, because they were in the bookseller.
Oh, wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah, I know, it was really exciting. So I've got Treasure Under the Jam Factory coming out, which is the second book of the Alien in the Jam Factory series. And yeah, talking of my treasure chest,
that's coming out next year, right?
Yeah, so that's out in April, and it's called Treasure Under the Jam Factory. And we're back in the Jam Factory, but Scooter and Fizby, his best friend, the alien, they discover that there's a treasure in some vaults underneath the Jam Factory, and they have to get to that treasure before a brand new villain.
Another villain.
A brand new
Can't wait to see who the new villain is.
So they have to get it before he does. Yeah. So that's been really fun to write, actually. So I think, in fact, that Jenny is illustrating that at the moment, and I'm so excited to see her illustrations, because yeah, we've got I don't know if I'm allowed to say. Oh, I will anyway. We've got an evil ferret in it this time. So we've gone from an evil guinea pig to an evil ferret. So I'm
yes, the evil that. Guinea pig. He's actually the poor guinea pig is subject to the villain's machinations, isn't he?
I know, poor Boris.
Yes, I'm trying to find a picture of the guinea pig.
Oh, I've got one.
I can't see one immediately. Have you got one? Yes.
That's him looking moody in his balaclava.
Yeah, so funny.
Yeah.
And what else? Have you got other things coming?
So I've got another book coming out. So so I've got one on the 7th of April, and then I've got another one coming out on the 14th of April. But for this one, I'm co-authoring it with Cara Maley, who, I don't know if you'll have seen her. She's been on the BBC. They had her and her family had a documentary Keeping Up with the Maylies, which was out in August. And Cara has achondroplasia, which is dwarfism, and the book is based on her experiences growing up with achondroplasia, and we're co-authoring it. Yeah, and it's been so much fun to write because because she's really good fun. Yeah, it's really nice. It's been
and is that going to be a fiction format too?
Yeah, that's a fiction format, and that's coming out a week after Treasure Under the Jam Factory.
So you're going to be busy in April.
I know, and you know what? I'm skiing in April. I'm going away.
Oh wow!
I'm back just as the books come out, so I'll have to enjoy that holiday if we get there.
So you'll be doing stuff from the snow.
Yeah,
there'll be snowing behind you.
Yeah. You'll have a picture of the book in a little bit of snow or slush. I don't know. So
that'll be fun. When's it?
Yeah, so we've got some so exciting things coming up actually.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And so what do we want to leave our viewers with some top tips about things you wish you'd known if you were to do it all over again, or some top craft tips, or just something about working with an editor or publicizing your book, just some bits and pieces people can use.
I think what I could say is that when An Alien and the Jam Factory got published, I realised that this book was a book that I really felt passionately about and I really wanted to write. And it was really written from the heart. And I think I'd written other books that, I don't know, I was trying to write for the market. Mm-hmm. And none of those got picked up. But the book that I wrote from the heart got picked up. So I don't know, I guess what I've always thought is, in terms of advice, is to write what you love. Because I think it shows, and you must feel the same. I think it shows in your writing when you're passionate about something. And looking back at my other books, I think, oh yeah, I can tell I wasn't as passionate about that now. Hopefully I could do work with them now. But,
yes, because you put in all those hours.
Yeah.
You like to think there's something in there.
Well, I wonder now if I need to put in some characters that I'm a bit more passionate about. And perhaps that's it. But yeah, I think because I did this, I wrote this book for my goddaughter, who obviously I love very much, and I wanted it to be something that would make her proud, and I think that came from the heart. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice, is to write what you love, really.
Sounds like a really good piece of advice. Yeah. I think when authors write something that they are really connected to on a personal level, even if it's nonfiction, like I did with Crayon Man, I think people pick up on that, and readers really connect with it on a personal level too. And so writing to the market can sometimes be useful if you can find a gap, but you have to be able to do both, I suppose, for it to sell.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
what would your piece of advice be?
Well, my piece of advice is mum on seats. Because if you don't put your hours in writing, it's like you were saying about the structure of your day. You know, if you just get distracted by household chores, by children, by life, you always have an excuse why you're not writing that book, or you know, and you do need to put in the time, and you do need to persevere. Yeah. The revision process, and actually be willing to let it sit for a bit and come back and rework it. There's just no substitute for the actual hard work and the hours spent learning your craft and actually trying to get it. I mean, there are lots and lots of good writers out there. It's just the ones who actually get picked up and published are the ones who really put in the effort.
But I don't know about you, but do you get doubt gremlins? So I have this thing, I heard it from Annalise Avery, who wrote The Night Silver Promise, and she refers to her doubt gremlins, and I get them as well. I imagine them on my shoulder telling me that I'm getting it all wrong, and I've had to really learn to not listen to them. I think that is hard when you've got the
as you say, the doubt, the side of your head that's going, you can't do this. You're a sham. This idea is rubbish.
I know.
Especially when you're stuck on a problem, but then you do need to sometimes take a break. But I find that I'm writing even when I'm not writing. So I'm always thinking through problems or new ideas. But I do think that you actually have to spend that time at your computer or writing stuff by hand is really useful too, because you connect differently with your ideas if you draw them out or write them out by hand. But then obviously you spend quite a lot of time word processing now if you're a writer.
And I think it's not always all about the writing either, is it? I mean, so I spend a lot of time thinking, a lot of time walking, a lot of time drawing. And and talking is really important to me. The other day I had a bit of a plot problem, and I was on the phone to a friend, and she was being so lovely because she was letting me just talk about it, and she was just making sort of comments here and there. And then I kind of resolved it, the plot issue, but really just through talking about it. And at the end, I was like, oh, thank you so much. And she was like, I've literally been on the other end of the phone.
But that's why it's good to have those people you can talk to. Or you can talk to your pets if you have any.
Good idea. My pets are really moody.
Are they?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah. I've got a cat, and she won't sit with us. She's called Cookie. She won't sit with us. And today she went and sat near me, and she kept passing wind. And it was awful. I was trying to write, and I was like, go away. Why are you sitting with me now?
So that was not helping the writing process.
No.
So, but does Cookie like jam? Here's the final thing.
Probably not.
No.
She doesn't like anyone.
So Cookie will not solve your problem. You have any?
No.
My dog likes toast. So if I had jam on my toast, my dog would eat it.
Oh.
She would sit and wait.
You have to put some of that blackcurrant jam on toast.
So we've just running out of time. Can you tell us who you're interviewing next week? Because you're back next week on the book chain, aren't you? And you're talking to the lovely Melissa, right? Wow, and that's her book. So tune in next week to hear Chrissie talk to Melissa.
And we're talking about The Undying Tower, which it's really good. It's a YA dystopian, and it's a sort of very Hunger Gamesy, really fast paced, and really gets you thinking. So I'm really excited to talk to her about that and find out about. I want to know what inspired her to write this. So
wow,
that'll be.
We have to tune in to hear that. So if you're interested, Chrissie's book's available at all good bookshops, and you should definitely check it out so you can find out what happens at the end of the book. So thank you for joining us. It was really fun talking to you, Chrissie. Love hearing all about what inspired you. And we'll say good night to everybody. Good night.
Thanks so much for having me. Bye.
Hey, Chrissie, that was a fun interview. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thanks.
And I think we learned some fun things about you and your love for jam and inventions and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So now we've got to ask you some tricky quickfire questions.
Oh, okay.
So it says, as a writer, what would you choose as your mascot or spirit animal? And it can't be from your book.
Okay, so I've had a little think about this one, and I was thinking more about what animal am I as a writer, and I think I'm going with Tasmanian Devil.
Wow, tell us why you chose that.
Well, mainly because I'm a bit like Taz, where I kind of spin around coming up with loads and loads of different ideas, and I throw everything in. And then I stop and I'm a bit lost and I'm not quite sure what to do. So then I have to sort of unpick everything. And the big thing I always have to do is to simplify everything. And I thought a Tasmanian Devil's always spinning and always throwing lots of plates around. And that kind of seems a bit like how I am and what I'm working at trying to resolve. Yeah, so that's why.
Wow, so interesting. So the next question was, what's your top writing tip? And we did talk about this in our interview a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But so I was thinking as you were talking, maybe you could tell us your top tip for resolving that issue that you have when you have so many ideas and you have to figure out which one to work on and how to figure it out so it actually becomes a book.
Okay, so I suppose in terms of resolving when I've got too many ideas is I tend to write them down and then I try and plot them and plan them. And it's really a bit of a gut instinct about what's working and what's not working. And if it feels like I'm trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, then it's wrong. And it's kind of just an instinct that if it feels that way, then I don't continue with it. But if it feels right and it feels like the story's coming together and it's all working and the motivations work and everything just seems to fit together in the right way, then I carry on with it. So I guess
that's really fun.
Yeah,
It's so important, isn't it, to trust your gut instinct? Because I find that sometimes you have that niggle and then you kind of don't listen to it, but then later on you regret it because it always comes back to haunt you.
yeah. Do you know what? And I've spent a lot of time where I've had an idea and I've kept like trying to jam that square peg in that round hole.
This doesn't work.
And it just doesn't feel right. And
you know, even if you manage to do it, then your editor comes back and goes, you know that bit? And you're like, oh, I thought I got away with it.
I think the truth is, you really know when it's not right. So yeah. So I think if it feels wrong, but yeah, my top tip, I did think of a top tip beforehand that I was going to give, and it was really about the first draft. And I don't know if you do this, Natascha, but I find when I'm doing a first draft, I have to just write without looking back and without reading anything that I've written. I plan it first and then I just have to write it. And to the point, even if I hit a point where I stumble and I don't have the words, I'll just write in bold, falls into a jam vat, or whatever it is I think is going to happen.
Just like a placeholder.
Yeah. And then I just carry on writing. And I think that's quite a good tip because it means you get through that first draft so quickly. I don't know about you, but I find the first draft really painful. So I like to just get straight through it.
Yeah, no, it's a good technique because, you know, you hear so many people who are just belaboring the first 3 chapters and they never can quite finish the whole thing.
Yeah.
And very often your first draft is nothing like the finished draft, but you just need to get something down on paper. So yeah, definitely good top tip. So if you could only eat one meal and drink one drink for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, so this is a really difficult question.
It is, isn't it?
It's really hard. So I'm a bit of a funny one because I don't have a big sweet tooth. So I was trying to think of meals I'd eat. And I thought I'm going to be a bit broad, which is probably a bit naughty, but I'm just going to say curry. Because I could eat curry all the time. I love curry.
Great.
Yeah. So I was just going to say curry.
So what would be your drink to go with it?
I don't know. Because if it was all I had to drink, it would probably just be water because I drink a lot of water. But I don't know if I could live without coffee, but I wouldn't only want to drink coffee.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
So I don't know. It's a really tricky one. So I'm just going to have to say water, which is probably really boring, but
that works. So here's the next one. Marvel or DC?
Marvel, definitely. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of DC actually. I don't like it as much as Marvel.
Okay. Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse?
Bugs Bunny. Because Bugs Bunny is, I don't know, kind of naughtier.
Yeah, it's quite funny, isn't he?
Funnier, yeah.
So what 3 books would you take with you to give to an alien?
Okay, so this is quite a tricky question actually. So I've got 2 here, but there's one I don't have. So the first one I don't have on me because actually the copy of it I have was my grandma's, and it has a leather, has like a leather cover, and it's about this big anyway because it was quite old, and it's Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And so as I was saying earlier, I wasn't a big reader, and weirdly I went from Roald Dahl, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, to Jane Eyre. So I read Jane Eyre when I was 11 and I fell in love with it. I loved the story. It created so much emotion, and I must have read it every year ever since. I read it, I can read it over and over. So I definitely show that. And then, of course, I had to bring a Roald doll. I'd have to give an alien a Roald doll. So I went with Matilda because, well, just because I do quite, I love Roald doll anyway, but I love that this is about the power of books. And I think that's got quite a powerful message to it. And then finally, I need something that would make me laugh. And the books that never ever fail to make me laugh, I really laugh out loud to these books, are the Pamela Bookchart Baby Aliens Got My Teacher series. And
Wow.
I can't read these without properly belly laughing. So
Oh, that's great.
so yeah. So
I think an alien will be amused.
Yeah, I hope so.
And so, well, this has been so much fun.
Thank you.
I've loved hearing all about what motivates you, and I wish you all the best as a writer, and hope that we can chat again sometime soon about our new projects.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you.
It's been really fun to be part of the book chain. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been lovely. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Next week, Chrissie is going to be interviewing fellow debut Melissa Welliver, whose debut The Undying Tower came out this year. I really hope you tune in to find out more about that, and I will see you then. Bye.